Unified School Board meeting for December.
I'm not in any of these. Thank God.
Sorry, guys. December 5th, 2018 at 6 o'clock at the BFA Library. I'd like to go over agenda review. Ask for a motion to review the agenda.
Not,
Oh, sorry.
the changes first.
Oh, sorry. A couple changes first. Sorry. Bear with me.
Just in orders.
Yeah. Just want to adjust order for the host site presentation. We want to go with short performance from Shrek first, so that'll be A. B will be student representative report, and C, capital needs for BFA. Any other changes or additions to the agenda?
Yeah, there is. That one.
Okay.
The Fairfield Zoning Board in the past has limited permits, building permits based on school impact. And I was asked, I asked by the zoning commissioner if I would bring up, they're going through their process now with townspeople and everything. They don't know what the impact to the school would be based on how many permits they would give out, that they would allow in 1 year. They never really did, but it's the question that they ask, and I'm wondering, I don't know when their next meeting is.
They had one on, actually, how about the zoning meeting?
But
Select board on Monday.
she asked me to speak to it at it, and I would need board's permission to, but I don't even know if we have an answer. So if Fairfield limits building permits because of school impact, it means a lot different now.
Do we need more information on that?
I don't know where you're going to get it. I don't think there is more information.
Should we push it? If there's more discussion that needs to be research on it, I guess I don't know what you're asking. Should we remove it? Or?
I'm asking to discuss it tonight because they're going to have their meeting, and they're going to, before we meet again.
I always thought the building permits were in regard to new structures.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we're talking
So
about.
typically, yeah,
Go ahead.
well, in the past,
I'm sorry, we're out of order here.
yeah, sorry. Do you want to add that to?
I do want to add it to the agenda,
Okay. Add.
and it's a question from the Fairfield Zoning Board, directly asked to me.
Okay. Can we add that to item A?
Whatever you want.
Well, that would be,
Item A2 or A1?
I think
It
it's
would be
under
under
New business?
new
under
business.
8D.
BD, okay. Sorry, what is it again, Mike? What?
Request from the zoning board, clarification, impact of their permits on the school.
Okay. Okay, that is 8D.
Good start, Nina.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Trying. Okay, any other additions, changes?
Move approval of the agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you, Al. And Mike. Can we all stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Need to vote.
Motion to approve the agenda as is. And all the additions?
You already have the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda, visitor section. Any visitors?
Excluding these young people?
Yes. Okay. No visitors. Agenda item number 5, host site presentation. We're going to start with short performance from Shrek.
Yes, so we have some of our performers from Shrek. If you had a chance, it was a wonderful show. Very pleased to have these young folks here with us, as well as with Mr. Messier, and they're going to talk a little bit about their experience in putting on the musical and show a little bit of a presentation as to how the musical went. If you didn't have a chance to see it, this will help you get a flavor for it, and if you did, it will bring back some nice memories. So, Mr. Messier.
Great, thank you, Mr. Monster. Maybe we could show a minute or two of the video, then I'll speak, and then the students speak. Thank you. Okay, so Madam Chair, Dr. Durth, Board of Directors, School Directors, I want to thank you for having us here today. My name is Armand Messier. I'm a music teacher at BFA and co-music director, and representing our directorial staff tonight, Susan Palmer, music director, my colleague and accompanist, Melissa Yule, Alexis Kamitzis, choreographer, and Doug Bell, who's our technical director. Just want to say that we want to thank you for your support. We think it was an excellent production. Personally and professionally, lots of time, and very proud of our efforts to make the entire community very proud of what we did. Our students were well prepared. The directorial team worked well together. Dr. Durr sent us a nice thank you letter a couple of weeks ago, email, and he had mentioned a very important fact. He said that we follow best practice because our teachers in the day are now involved in the musical, and we know our students were working well with them. Some ongoing things in the musical. It was really nice to have co-music directors. I split the gig with my colleague, Melissa, who was an excellent musical theater person, and I conducted the pit, and we were brought on new this year, and some new energy, and we really enjoyed our roles in the position. We're looking forward to utilizing entire district resources, both in talent and personnel, to make our production even better for future years. We also seeking financial support of the musical through the budget process and your approval. And we're working with our department head and administrators to bring academic standards that are equivalent to what our athletes are held to for our musical for next year. So something we want to make sure that our students are getting it done in the classroom just like the athletes are. So with that said, we'd like to introduce the students. They're going to introduce themselves and say one or two things about what the musical meant to them. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Messier. Hello, thank you so much for having us here. We're all members of the BFA Drama Department, and my name is Rosie Newton. I'm a senior in the Drama Department, and I'd like to speak a little bit about how... just drop that. A little bit about how I think theater is very important to the real world, because I'm going to be going into the real world in a couple months, which is I feel very well prepared for because I've had such a theatrical background in the drama department. And I feel like in order to become a well-skilled and rounded actress, which is, you know, physical through dancing and I think emotional through acting, you need to be very self-aware and very aware of the emotions of other people and very caring and understanding to what other people are going through, very empathetic towards them. And that has really helped me and many other people become a stronger actor and actress for the stage. And I believe that all those skills are very, very universal in things like public speaking and going out into the real world and dealing with things like that. So I think that is something that has really impacted all of us through theater.
Hi, I'm Liana Roque, and I'm also a senior at BFA this year. Theater for me has really helped me with my work ethic. Starting out as a freshman, can't say it was too good. Procrastination was my best friend. But through the years, because of the theater, I've been able to learn how to balance schoolwork and theater, fun and work. It's really helped me throughout the years, and I think that will really prepare me for college and being able to balance that as well.
Hi, I'm Sophie Brown. I am a junior at BFA. And something that's really important to me that I gained through theater is my friends. I've gained some of my closest friends in theater. And I've also bonded with the freshmen in a way that I never thought I would. Just spending so much time with each other backstage, we just bond very well. And I appreciate that a lot.
Hi, I'm Axel Sparrow. I'm a junior. Theater has helped me find a sense of community. It's very similar to what Sophie said. But as theater, you spend so much time around people, around teachers, around younger kids, and you find a sense of friendship, of trust in one another that you never really realized before. You build stronger bonds with teachers that you didn't realize. You look out for younger kids, and you aspire to be like the seniors. And it really helps you grow as a person, and yeah.
I'm Isabella Bonacera. I'm a sophomore, and theater has really helped me because in middle school, I didn't really have a lot of friends. I think I had 2-3 friends that I could count on who were in a different class than me. So it was very hard for me to talk and get to know kids that were in my class. And I never got to really get to know them. And I get to BFA, and I'm bombarded by all these new people, and I'm just like, I love all of them. So I found a very tight-knit but very open community of drama kids who I can have fun with, who I can have serious talks with, who are just one of the best people that I can click with. And it's really something that I think drama has done that no other extracurricular activity could do for me.
Hi, my name's Sydney Ward. I'm a sophomore here at BFA. And the musical to me means a lot of different things, but one thing I think is pretty incredible is the basis of teamwork you learn through the musical. I personally have gotten to work with a ton of amazing people throughout the years. And I think it's important for students to learn how to put trust with other people, especially when you're on stage. You're very vulnerable in a sense, and if you are improvising or something happens, you're able to put your trust in somebody else. I know we've had a couple incidents on stage where Axel did a really good job of saving something last year. So I think it's important to be able to work with other students and be trusting of them.
Hi, my name is Pilot Delorier, and I'm a freshman this year, and the drama community is just so open, and some of the people who got me started in drama in middle school are kids who I'm still participating in drama with today. And it's such a great leap from middle school to high school drama, just hearing everyone's amazing voices and seeing the connections that everyone can make together, that it works really well. And I'm so happy that I decided to do it. And as stressful as it can get sometimes, it's definitely worth it. And I'm happy I did it.
So, hi, my name is Emily Parent. I'm a freshman this year. And I think what was really important for me when doing drama is it really helped with the transition from middle to high school, because I was thrown into this world where there were upperclassmen who knew what they were doing, and I felt I could trust them to ask them questions which I might think were silly, like, hey, can you guide me to this room, and do you know what this means? These were people who were super willing to help me and give me the support that I needed inside and outside of stage. And it just gave me this family that follows me even throughout after the show and after different events that we do together. And even after they graduate, we're still like family, and that's the connections you can't break because of the process we go on together. And it just helped make that transition just so much easier than I could have actually ever imagined. Thank you.
So if there's any questions about the musical or the students?
How many of you are lesbians?
Pretty much all of us.
How many of you are working on it?
I just want, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just was good.
I just wanted to comment on the amazing presentation style. Very mature, very effective, and all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I'll second that. Better than I started out tonight.
So this emphasizes to me, you hear a lot about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And as a former music major myself and music teacher, went on to become stupid and a superintendent and all that. But it should be STEAM. It should be science, technology, education, or engineering, arts, and math. And you've just made a statement way beyond what I've just said, that how important the arts, like would you want to go to a dentist who couldn't sculpt? You know what I mean?
Very relevant.
When you turn on your radio, do you listen to math? So anyway, you folks have embodied the reason why it should be STEAM and not STEM.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, I just wanted to say, I thought it was like probably the most amazing musical I've been to at BFA in a long time. And I actually have a twin sister who's a music teacher and did these amazing musicals down in the middle of Vermont in this amazing auditorium with lots of resources, and they were pretty amazing. And this was one of the most amazing musicals I've seen. And I agree with you that, I did music all through high school and actually college, and it's just so important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm still smiling.
How many students are involved in the drama?
At least, I think in total, because we have 3 productions throughout the years and throughout the year, and some kids do some productions or are busy during other productions. And I'd say in total, 60, 70?
Yeah. And that's not counting the tech crew as well.
Yeah, definitely not counting
classes.
Tech crew, cosmetology, our dancers, they all,
And the classes as well that are.
In the music department.
yeah, and the music department.
Music department.
And it's grown a lot this year too, definitely.
Yes. Our pit was mostly students this year.
Involved
Oh, definitely.
throughout the year? Do they
Oh,
have
yeah.
to get involved from the full year, or can they get
Oh,
involved?
No, you can get involved anytime.
Yeah. And sometimes we have kids who aren't necessarily on stage, like the tech and everything, who come in and help. And it's very Susan tried to incorporate a lot of other departments. She had building trades build our sets, cosmetology do our hair and makeup, and just have everyone kind of come together as a community to build something that our project we're all on.
Are you guys proud of yourselves?
We are.
I would just like to reiterate what everybody said. Mrs. Palmer, Mr. Messier, everybody working together like this, you guys were great. And I've been here 5 years, and I've seen 5 shows, and this surpassed anything I've seen here. And you just did a great job. And I look forward to seeing continued growth, because I think this is just the beginning. I think you guys will even get better over the years. So congratulations. And I'd also like to say before you leave, or ask, I see some people here who are part of the new Maple Run Speak Chorus, who performed for the Board of Ed.
Yes.
That was absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
And raise your hands, because the board should know who you are. You should have a great song.
They're all members of the BFA course too.
Are we planning to do a spring show?
I think the one acts are this spring, so.
Our spring show is a one-act show. This year it's about immigration, and
That's a select cast as
it's a
well.
select cast.
We're also hosting this year, so all
Yes.
the schools that are competing are going to come to our school, and we're going to host them and have the big festival, which is really fun.
And then
What does that mean, a
What's
select
going to
cast?
happen when
A
the
select cast for the
freshman and
musical.
sophomore-
Everyone gets in. But for a select cast, Susan can pick who gets to be in the cast. A couple of us were in it last year.
It's generally very small. She tries not to have such a big cast because the musical and Junior Jam, which comes after 1X, is for everybody. The 1X is more select because it is a competition. We try to get into we have regional and then we go to state level. We've tried to get into states before. We were very close last year. So hopefully this year.
You went to states last year.
I went to All-Star last year, which is a different part of states. And the junior, oh sorry, go ahead, Cynthia. Oh, what were you saying?
What were you saying?
I look forward to seeing you. I haven't had that opportunity. I couldn't see straight, but I plan to be at the. How many of you are in chorus? I plan to make the spring concert. So.
Thank you. Oh, I was just saying that Junior Jam, which is coming up further in spring around the March area, is student-directed plays. So they're one-act plays, about 45 minutes, that each class, freshmen through seniors, have directors, stage managers, actors, and everything. So it's a really cool way for us to jump into the more professional theater world and take on ourselves that the teachers oversee and help us in the process.
Each class competes against each other, so freshman against sophomore and junior against senior. So it's healthy rivalry between the classes, but they don't really tear us apart, really. It's more fun.
It's very much about friendly competition and makes us actually closer because then we can go, oh, that was really good, or you can work on this a little more because as a freshman especially, you have most grades, especially upperclassmen helping you and going, hey, I can help you with fight scenes, hey, I can help you with makeup, So it really helps, especially the underclassmen and the upperclassmen.
Well, again, we want to thank you for having us and wish you best of luck for your board meeting tonight.
I'll get Brenda the link to the whole montage. There's 15 or 17 minutes of different pieces from the show, and she'll put it in the minutes so you can see the whole thing.
Representatives report. Haley Seymour and Alex Hayes.
My name is Haley.
I'm Alex.
And we're just here to tell you about some of the stuff that's been going on at BFA the last couple months. First thing I thought of was our fall concert that happened. We had an instrumental concert and a winter concert, and in my opinion, they both went really well, although I'm a little bit biased. We also have an upcoming winter concert on December 16th, where it's instrumental, chorus, and dance, and maybe drama? I don't remember if they are in this one or not. But we sing Christmas songs and play Christmas music and all that kind of stuff. My next point is Shrek the Musical was pretty amazing. I went to one of the shows and I thought it was one of my favorite ones that I've seen out of the 4 years I've been here. The new print edition of the Mercury just came out this November, and which I would say was pretty good, but again, I'm pretty biased. We have a new Student Voice and Diversity Club, which it was called GLOW last year and in previous years, which stands for gay, lesbian, or whatever. But they changed it to the Student Voice and Diversity Club to be more inclusive to race, gender, sexuality, all that kind of stuff. We had our homecoming week, which we had a whole spirit week where we all of us dressed up different days. So we had America Day, we had Green and Gold Day, 80s Day, and a couple other days. And then we had our Powder Puff fundraiser on Saturday. which we lost for the first time, which is unfortunate, but we raised a lot of money for a good cause, so we're really proud of that. Speaking of Spirit Week, we also have a new thing. It's a new Spirit Week in December, which the freshmen actually thought of. And it's going to be Christmas themed, and we're going to do that the week before Christmas break. And also, we did this writing conference in October that was called Share Your Heart, Share the World. And Miss Hebert's American Lit class, as well as Mr. Archibald's creative writing class, as well as a couple extra students, went on this trip to Burlington. It was Burlington, and we got to meet a lot of poets and creative writers and talk to them about our work and stuff like that. And they had helped a lot. Yeah.
Alex again. In terms of athletics, we had a great fall season. We had our team sports tryouts for the winter season last week. And we had an athletic conference recently this fall, which we had 8 students attend. We actually had 2 students receiving Student Scholar Athlete Awards. 2 out of, I believe, 8 in the state. We were very honored to receive such high awards for our students. Like I said, we had 8 students go to this conference to learn more about leadership, sportsmanship, athleticism. 4 males and 4 females went. We are having a advanced placement science trip to Boston on December 14th, the Boston Museum of Science. We're going to learn more about ecology, chemistry, all these interesting exhibits through experience at the Boston Museum of Science. Very interesting. The convocation or speak chorus with the Maple Run Unified District. We had a presentation to the Board of Ed. It went very well. We had our students produce a script of folk lyrics and some poems, which I actually wrote. We performed to the school board, and I believe it went very well. We had Huron Bellows Day for the freshmen, a community service project where the freshmen went out and just helped around the community, did some cleaning up. And we had our homecoming dance, our Halloween dance, and we are going to have our winter ball on January 12th. We've been raising money to pay for prom. We've had a pretty good turnout, and we're excited to have our prom. We've secured the Hilton down by the waterfront in Burlington for our prom location, and right now we are working on themes.
When's the date?
I don't know.
May 18th.
Yes.
I'm curious, I hate to say it, but what's the Christmas theme Spirit Week?
So like one of the days is like class color day, and one of the classes wears green, one red, one gold, one silver, and then there's pajama day where we all wear Christmas pajamas, and then there's dress like a present day. So yeah, I'm not sure about the other days, but those are a few.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, good job. Nice presentation. Thank you.
Next up is capital needs for BFA.
Thank you, Nina. So, a couple of things. First, Laz Gangus, you may know, is our architect, and he's going to talk a little bit about our capital needs. I'm going to introduce this project that we'd like to present to you, and I do have some handouts for the board. The top ones are in color, the bottom ones are in black and white, so don't be offended if you get the black and white printed copy. They're pretty much the same, but I thought it'd be best to have a few extras. So those handouts will correspond to my remarks about our project needs, and then Laz will speak a little bit more about the specifics around the project, and obviously we take whatever questions. So I want to make sure you have the handout, and I'm going to begin our conversation. So, just wait a moment. So, the project, and Laz has it there on the screen, is going to be called the 3S plan. It's a little catchy, but it's really important because it stands for students, their safety, and their security. And that's really the essence of why we want to present this plan and hopefully have it approved so that we can do what's best, we think, for our students and, of course, our staff and certainly our community. So that's how we want to frame the presentation around our students, their safety, their security. I think it's a good way to try to remember what the goals are and why we need to pursue this opportunity. We have a building, several buildings, that have served us well, I think, for many years. But it doesn't take much to notice that in some situations they are crumbling and they're tired and in many ways unsafe. And so our present configuration is not serving our young people very well. And I think in conversation with Dr. Dirth and Mr. Kimball and Martha and Laz, we've been able to create a plan that we think is very much cost effective and I think will be very long lasting and meet our facilities needs with this investment well into the future. Most of the work is driven by our safety needs, and that's what I'm going to talk about specifically. Some of the work is as a result of some deferred maintenance and repairs. There's some infrastructure needs as well. But I'm going to focus on the school safety piece because I'm with the students and staff every day, and I want to be able to present why I think that this project, the essence of which is a link between the north and south buildings, is so important, not only for this group of students, but for generations to come. So that's our 3S plan, and I want to give you a little bit of background about why this is so important, and then talk specifically about some safety concerns, and then Laz can walk us through the rest of the project. The need to address the safety concerns relative to the building isn't new. It preceded me. I was here in 2013. It was actually identified, not going way, way back, but in 2010, our self-study report for the New England Association of Secondary Schools and Colleges, which does our accreditation, which we are a member. It requires all staff to look at needs and present that as part of our own reflection as professionals. So back in 2010, the BFA faculty talked about Standard 7, which is community resources for schools. And the quote that I highlighted there is that the walkway between buildings poses a safety concern for all students. Mind you, this was about 8 years ago. Of course, by identifying that in a self-study, it gets reflected back in the report of the folks who accredit us. So the visiting committee that came in 2010 adhered to that and said, as a recommendations, a course of action, said that the walkway between the buildings can be unsafe, particularly in the winter. I know many of you have visited our school. I'm sure our student reps could talk about that. This is a very recent picture, was it today, I believe, when Mr. Skangos started taking pictures, and I am proud to say that 4 people challenged him for taking pictures, asking who he was and what he's doing, which speaks well to our school culture in saying, there's somebody they don't know, although Laz had my permission, we did talk about making sure that people knew why he was there, but it was good to know that people recognized that there was somebody who didn't necessarily belong in their eyes and wanted to know what he was doing and why he was there. So when you think in terms of student safety, that's a good piece of learning that the kids have developed, and the grown-ups too, to know that.
Were they students?
One was a student, and 3 One was a faculty member, and then I was approached by 2 other faculty members. But yeah, it was, and even when we have another picture coming up, I mean, some students looked at me and they didn't say anything, but they questioned, you know, it was like, is this person supposed to be here? Of course, I had a camera in my hand, which even made them a little nervous maybe.
So but we were actually quite pleased that that happened. Right, people were notified, but still, kids and adults challenged in effect, which I think helps it gives a little window into the school culture and the culture that we're trying to create around school safety. So as you can see from today, it wasn't terribly hazardous, but there are obviously times where there's ice and snow and mud and cold, and these kids can talk about it very well. They live it, and it's difficult. So in the NEASC report, that was the primary reason cited for us to do something about that walkway situation. Now, granted, sometimes in the spring, the kids can have lunch and it's very pleasant, but that is subsumed by the need to ensure student safety. So the recommendation was there, and the recommendation was clear that we were to develop and implement a plan to ensure the safety of the walkway between buildings in the winter. When I came aboard in 2013, it was in response to the previous 2-year report that NEASC was requesting evidence of implementation of a plan that ensures the safety of the walkway during winter months. So it was sort of a back and forth between our response and the expectations of the accreditation group. And having served on that group as a member of the Committee of Public Secondary Schools, I can tell you that many times safety issues are prominent in the conversations at the accreditation level, and there really is a very serious expectation that member schools will meet those recommendations. Otherwise, we face various sanctions, even to the point of being placed on warning and possibly even losing our accreditation. So when I came on board, I wanted to make sure that we were addressing that particular recommendation because it was clear that they wanted some action. Now, we didn't build a connector, but I worked very closely with the previous facilities director, and as you can see in the handout that I gave you, our response, since the focus was on winter months, was salting, shoveling, monitoring, etc., which kind of got us through the report process, but really not sufficient, I don't think, in ensuring student safety and staff safety in the daily transportation between the buildings. So that was part of the rationale, and that's part of the safety question, is the winter months, the salt, the mess, the sand, people slipping, visitors coming in and entering, the tracking of the mud and muck in the hallways, requiring significant efforts by our custodial staff. The rugs, the cleaning, the salting just isn't sufficient. And I just wanted to make that very clear. It got us through that phase of the accreditation process, but really not doing the right job. Now, being a history teacher, this is important to me. So that was in 2010. What's really important to note is that 2010 preceded some very horrible events. We had Sandy Hook in 2012, and Parkland from last spring is still very much in our minds, in our thinking and in our policy making and in our decision making around how to keep kids safe. So what I want to stress is, although originally part of this was really weather related, we can't divorce ourselves from some of those national catastrophes and some of the brushes that we've had with school safety. So under safety concerns, I think it's really important to note that having that link between buildings would better ensure student protections, not only just in terms of catastrophe in those really horrible situations, but just the day-to-day. We've had to go into either a lockdown or secure the schools periodically because of the openness of our campus. And sometimes I think we live in a very safe community, and we have a wonderful relationship with St. Albans PD, and Officer French has done a terrific job in connecting with our kids. But sometimes kids are passing, and there are folks who may not necessarily intend to do us harm, but potentially could. Sometimes I'm frankly just a little amazed that the fact that we pass 850 students 7 times a day, and we've been fortunate that there have been no serious incidents just right in front of us with some of the situations that have occurred within our community. And that's just part of life, and it's unfortunate and sad. It's not to speak ill of anyone, but those are real situations that have affected us. We have had to take measures to put ourselves into either a lockdown or secure the schools. And it's stressful for kids. And it's difficult, even if there was no direct intention to harm anyone at BFA. So the daily passing is not only hazardous for slipping and falling, but for anybody who may happen by, who for whatever reason may want to do harm to someone. So once again, I just want to stress, it's 850 students, about 100 adults, passing regularly. If we were to do this all over again, knowing what we know now about Parkland and about Sandy Hook, I don't know that one would construct, if you could from the beginning, a configuration that we have right now with that level of exposure for our kids. So when I get back to that idea of the triangle, safety, security, and students, I could also make it a square and call it staff, because I think we value everybody here. And maybe that'll be as I think this through, maybe I want to make this a square instead of a triangle, because we need everybody to be safe in school. And I need to tell you, as your principal, that based on the configuration, based on the history, based on the weather issues, based on issues in the community, and based on catastrophic events in high schools across the country, I cannot tell you that we're putting our kids in the safest situation possible, knowing that they're exposed every single day. So,
Chris, if I may tag team with you for a second.
Yes, please.
Is there a chance we could go back to the earlier slide last? Some of you may not know. This is, of course, looking from
Main Street.
Main Street up. That road going up is not necessarily a driveway. That's a public road. It's Ferris Street. Of course, they've got we now own that road, but it's still a road. And while there's a chain across it, there are still, what Chris was talking about is, and we don't have control over that, there are still people who walk up that road to get to their homes and things up on Ferris Street. So that's, again, just to reiterate what Chris said, is part of the problem with our safety is that we have people we don't know, and that not necessarily being malicious or anything, who take that as the way home.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, it's sort of a double-edged.
Isn't that technically trespassing?
It's a public road.
Technically,
it's not a public road. We own it.
We own that road, so. Yes, and I will say that Officer French has been vigilant in trying to make sure that people not staying and causing difficulty, and our people are very vigilant about getting out there and making sure that people pass through if they do quickly. And that's been sort of the culture, I think, that has developed over the years, which is another reason why I think it's so important to have the link, we used to call it, or a connector. And one of the things I want to point out, and Laz can talk about this a little bit more in detail, but what we would do through this link is have one centralized entrance. Right now we have something like 34 doors. It's not that difficult to get into our building. As much as we've tried to alarm the doors, as much as we've made sure that everybody has one of these to be able to buzz themselves in, as much as we've tried to keep the doors as closed as often as we can, we have to pass kids from class to class, and so invariably there's going to be times where if somebody did want to do harm, it wouldn't be that difficult to mix into the crowd and be able to get in and out because we have multiple entrances. So with a connector that would be somewhere where those steps are in the middle of that picture, That would become the center of our school. There would be a complete reconfiguration of where our buses would be, where our foot traffic would be, where our entrance would be, and it would be much more manageable to be able to monitor who comes in and how we can better ensure student safety. I can't guarantee that it's going to solve all our problems, but I can say that it certainly will reduce the risk, and it will be a far better situation than what we're knowing and willingly doing currently with the kids passing as portrayed in that picture for today.
So Chris, if I could, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what's envisioned isn't simply just a corridor, but it's also a central entranceway with offices perhaps as part of this process. And
yes, and Laz will show precisely what that will be. And,
thank you.
And I think we talked about various schemes, some more elaborate than others, and I would have to say what we're presenting is, I think, something that may not be necessarily elaborate, but I think it's cost effective, I think it meets our needs, and I think it will be aesthetically pleasing and attractive. So I think we're hitting all the bases in a very mindful way relative to the needs of the community as well.
Just for clarification, we only own the road that's on the campus, right? Not the rest of it, going beyond.
Right, you only own the road between the two buildings,
right,
not the bottom of Ferris Street, or the bottom of the current Ferris Street.
Well, doesn't it, I guess the part I was asking about was the above. We don't own the, that's the city. Okay.
So that was my focus tonight relative to the presentation. I just wanted to conclude with the 3 S's. I mean, it's, and if not the 4, staff, students, safety, and security. And I really want to be very clear with you as your principal that I do think it's time to make this effort to change the configuration of our school because of kids like Alex and Haley. Multiply that, and that's what we're talking about. I'm not trying to be dramatic, I'm just trying to be truthful and realistic with you. And I do think that we have a wonderful opportunity. Kevin's done a terrific job in supporting this effort. Laz has been very mindful of our needs, and I'm going to turn it over to him, and he can walk us through the details of the project.
Chris, given what you just said, should we continue senior privileges? I mean, there certainly could be going further than crossing, our campus.
It's a wonderful question. My instinct would be yes, because I think if somebody wants to do us harm, they could do it at any given time. And I think kids have earned that right, and we've granted them, and fortunately we've not had any incidents. I'd be anxious to hear what they think, but I don't know that we're putting them at any further risk through the privilege program.
It seems to me that we are, if this is a problem. I would, ask you to think about that. I think you might be just thinking about tradition and you can't make the argument in one place and not make it in another, it seems to me.
Thank you.
I also wonder about Collins Burley, too. If somebody really wanted to do students harm, there's tons of teams out there all the time, so.
It's
But that might be the bottom line. If somebody really wants to do something like that, all you can do is try to mitigate it as best you can. Can you eliminate it completely? It's hard.
David can certainly speak to Collins Pearly, but I guess Laz should walk us through the project.
Yep. So I just want to orientate you. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the campus. You're currently in this building right now in the library. This is the old hospital, which was the original hospital for St. Albans, built about 1890 or so. This is the original school, 1930. There was a 60s edition that was placed on the back of the building, which has the gym now, which everybody should be familiar with. And then we have the tech building back here. We were allowed to redo the Performing Arts Center and put an addition on and gain 3 classrooms. And at that point, Division of Fire and Safety said no more. With the Performing Arts Center, they made us sprinkle the stairways, allowed us to do this, but they said any other work, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to sprinkle these buildings. You cannot do any other work without doing that first. So Chris focused on the connector, but there's two other pieces to this. One is the old hospital. It's had deferred maintenance. It's got brick that is crumbling. It's got brick that needs to be repointed. There are rotted floor framing under the kitchen because of water damage over the years that needs to be repaired. There's windows that need to be replaced. There's a roof that needs to be replaced. There's a bunch of things that just have not been done, and they've reached a point where they need to be done. It's just beyond. So you can see where the red brick, you can see through the paint. You know, additions were taken off, and nothing was done after they took the additions off. You know, and you got holes in the wall where water is entering. You got improper drainage, which is running down the brick. You got rot happening, the trim is rotting at the windows. So things need to be done to this building, and it's reached a point where it has to happen. The other piece is the original school, the 1960 addition, and Northwest Tech. We've got a lot of people in this building and it's not sprinkled. And if we are going to do the link, we have to sprinkle the buildings. And we're basically talking all these buildings on the south side of the campus. When we did the Performing Arts Center, we brought in a new water line from Main Street and brought it into the building, and it was prepped, so when we had to do the rest of the building, it's all set to go. The water's there, it's sized appropriately. The other piece that we did is we stubbed off a section here so it can be extended into this building, and we can sprinkle the 1960 edition, and we can sprinkle the tech center. Now, we're not going to be able to sprinkle this all in one summer. It's going to have to be done in phases, and most likely the first phase is going to be the gym and parts of the tech center like automotive and other places where there's opportunity for flammable, liquid, or unsafe conditions to happen. There's not as worried about the school because there's papers up. I mean, it's just, there isn't that hazard where the gym, where you have a lot of people in a panic situation. So we're probably going to phase it probably over 3 or 4 summers, but that's the place where we would start. The other piece that really should be taken care of as well is in this corner of the building on the ground floor, the building transformers are actually within the building, which is a real no-no. Just to give you an idea, there's 12,470 volts in that room. It's
Where
just,
is that again?
it's in this corner.
How close am I to it?
But people shouldn't even be going in that room unless power is killed at the street.
So how did that end up that way?
When it was built, it was probably okay.
Okay.
But it's never been changed since. And that's an important piece to, in terms of safety, that's an important piece of that, but it's not an inexpensive piece. And I think that's why it's never happened. I'm sure no one goes in the room is locked, it's secured, maintenance knows how to deal with it, but it's a piece that we really should take care of. So that would be part of this project as well.
Is that considered confined space?
Yes.
Aren't transformers subject to malfunctions that they fill with oil that could possibly burn?
Could be. They also may have PCBs, but there's a piece that has to be taken care of.
I mean, a lightning strike usually blows a transformer. You got something, you got a fire. But
well, that's at least in the building, so it's not exposed.
Yeah, but
to
a surge
that.
can do the same thing.
It could, absolutely. No, it could.
Yeah.
It could.
I had no idea that's where they were.
That's where they are. Yes.
As for the folks that are watching this eventually on Channel 15, sprinkling, what does that mean? I know what it means, you know what it means, but to the common everyday person, they don't know that it's the fire sprinklers.
It's basically bringing water into the building. You'll have sprinkler heads. Like this building is sprinkled. It's dying on me. There's a recessed sprinkler head there. When that cover pops off, a head pops down and water goes off. So it attempts to contain the fire, and it's usually pretty good. And we don't have that over there. And the 1930s building is a timber frame building. It's all wood. And back when they did that building, they had ventilation shafts to move air around to try to make it as comfortable. And those shafts are wide open and from floor to attic. And so getting the sprinkler in there, again, if we're talking about safety, that's a big one.
I had one more question about the transformers. Who owns them?
You do.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we would be putting basically a transformer outside on the ground, out of the building.
So the power company wouldn't own the transformers?
I don't know if we did it where, I have to look in the budget. I don't recall if we bought it or if we allowed the power company to give.
What's better, them owning it or us owning it?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know, in all honesty.
Okay.
So the next piece, or the third piece in this thing, is the connector. Chris talked about this link. It's outside. This sort of gives you just an idea of what we're talking about. We're really talking just a straight shot here. We are going to reconfigure this parking lot. And as part of it, currently, all the buses come in here and turn around. We're going to bring the buses here, and we're going to make this a parking lot now.
So the buses will be coming off of Main Street?
They'll be coming off Main Street. So the buses will be coming here. We'd have a connector. There'll be a person to greet people. There'll be a small conference room, a bathroom. And so you can meet with people. You don't have to bring them into the school unless they absolutely need to. And then this is very secured. And then this week gets converted to parking.
I'm disoriented here.
This is Main Street.
Right there?
Yeah, you're in here right now.
The buses are going to come off of Main Street?
Yep.
And what, student parking and teacher parking?
All we did is by moving these, we were able to grab another 25 parking spaces.
Does not necessarily mean student parking.
Right.
No, I understand that. I'm just thinking about the congestion that we have on Main Street and what a absolute mess that is trying to drop your kids off in the morning. And thinking about adding the buses to that.
It's really the only choice.
Huh?
So it's really the only choice is the bottom line. In order, if you're going to do the connector and have a central location for people to come and go, that's where we ended up. We did look at the traffic situation, and that was a concern, but the connector has to be the central place for everybody to enter the building, so therefore the buses have to go that way to be practical.
So students, if they're being dropped off on the east side of the building, will have to walk the entire way around, or will there be an entrance for students that are coming, all the kids that either walk down or walk down from the other side?
I think that'll be the primary.
This will be the primary entrance. I know in the morning, for instance, this will still be an entrance. And I'm assuming they will make some kind of, just for the morning where people are coming in, there'll be controlled access. So this is sort of the view from Main Street. It's actually sort of the back of the parking lot where I don't could go as far back as the snowbank. But that's where the kids are walking now. And then if the connector was put in place, that's sort of what it may look like.
I was glad Laz was able to do that because it gives a fairly realistic image of what the vision is.
And Visitor parking will be right there?
Right there.
And teacher parking will be, where will that be?
What we're doing is we're grabbing 25 additional parking spaces, and that's going to be used however the school sees fit.
You're grabbing them from where?
From the bus turnaround, the old bus turnaround. We're able to get 25 more here because we no longer have the bus turnaround. So that's where we're grabbing.
So that'll be teacher, and then visitor will be at the front entrance.
The visitor will be at the front entrance.
Now, where would you plan handicap parking?
There actually will be a handicap parking here. We're also going to have a ramp that takes you up to this entrance and gets you up to that level.
From the back side or the front side?
No, from the front side. If you park here
Okay.
and come over to here, there's a ramp right here that'll bring you up to this entrance. There's a set of stairs if you were just walking that would get you up here.
You also said that you had to be compliant with the sprinkler system first. So is there an order of maintenance that needs to happen before this happens? Or can this all be done, or is the plan to kind of request it all?
Our proposal would be if this project moves forward, our first talk would be with the Division of Fire Safety. And our proposal, and actually I have had conversations with them already, because the local fire inspector, who I run into sometimes here, or when we submit drawings for other projects, has said, hey, what's going on with BFA? When are they going to do the bond to sprinkle the building? So we've had conversations, and I've approached them with, we can't do this all at once. We'd like to do the gym, because that's a high assembly space, lots of people. And we like to do some of the tech center, and maybe hazardous is not the right word, but there's a welding shop. Do the things there's potential, safety potential first, and I think they would be okay with that. I think they would be very happy to see a process.
So these would be phases?
Yeah, they would be phased.
And Chris, you had said about accreditation. Do we have a time limit with this to get it done? Would we be in danger of losing any accreditation?
It's a great question. We've already met the accreditation needs from the 10-year cycle that began in 2010. So they've since changed standards and expectations. And so we'll be restarting under a new system probably this spring. But no, our accreditation is fine. It has been an issue. They were satisfied with the way we addressed it, but now I think we want to enhance that. And I suspect if a visiting team came back, which they will in a couple of years, they will address this even more strongly.
Last, when you connect two buildings, does that mean you have to have safety codes at both ends? Like both buildings have to meet the same safety codes?
Right. And that's one of the pieces, when connecting it, you can't connect a sprinkled building to a non-sprinkled building. So when we do the connector, we have to sprinkle it anyways. So.
And will there need to be discussion with like the state or the city in terms of any potential changes to Main Street in terms of traffic flow, lights?
That will all happen.
All that kind of stuff.
That will all happen. Right now is just we're presenting this idea to you of how we think we can solve some of the issues that BFA has.
I had a question on sprinklers. Sprinklers, are we talking water or powder or a combination of both?
We're talking water.
So you would put a water sprinkler in a welding shop?
No, specialties we wouldn't, but in general
Or
for
a
the
kitchen? Or,
no,
yeah.
the specialty spaces we would not, but in general the whole building is going to be underwater, except for spaces that require different sprinkler systems.
So I'm assuming when this water sprinkler goes off, the power goes off with it. Not
Yes.
the power for the sprinkler, but the
Yeah.
power for
Yeah.
the building.
Yeah, yeah. The building will be alarmed too, which it currently isn't either. So, well, it does have an alarm, but it's really not too cold.
Okay.
So the building
fire
will be-
alarm though, right?
Yeah, fire alarm. Yep.
ask, so how much is this spell gonna cost?
That's the next part of the meeting.
It's a good question.
We're planning on doing that under the new business, right? Martha?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Under 8B.
8B, okay, yep. Great. Any other questions?
I just have a comment. Chris, you mentioned something about, in today's world, we wouldn't design this way. You know that it wasn't designed this way, right?
Oh, I understand.
Okay, I mean, Laz kind of pointed out that it was a hospital. I mean, I think it was an opportunity that what happened was it was an opportunity for the community to get space for. I think the legend has it that it was $1 they paid for the hospital to get the space. So.
Understood.
Because I lived here forever, so I know all this trivia that's more.
It's good to know. No, I was just thinking more globally. If somebody would have designed a high school, we wouldn't probably do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody recognized when it happened, it was, wow, we have this outdoor space that kids have to go back and forth in. And what are you doing with bad weather? Well, you get wet, and you get cold, and you get everything, right? Going on for a long time.
No, and I, at the time, it was brilliant, but I think we've just evolved and have different perceptions and understandings about things now, and so that's what I was only trying to point out, that it's probably not the way we would do it today.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments? Great, thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Looking to any changes or removal of anything for the minutes for October 29th, November 2nd, November 15th. Anything need to be changed, updated, removed? Looking for a motion to approve, I'm sorry. Looking to approve all of the meeting minutes, meeting packet, grants, donations, staff changes, financial reports.
Nobody wants to call anything out, they'll just check.
Exactly. Okay. Sorry. Any questions? Okay. We'll just accept all those. Old business, budget updates. Oh, Martha.
So I don't know if you want to start. Okay. So we're still working on our budget. We've come pretty close to completing our expenditure side of the budget process. We are still waiting for some information from AOE to be able to finalize our expenditures. Some of those things that we're waiting for are the equalized pupil count, the 6-semester average FTEs for the tech center. That piece in particular will affect our expenditure budget. The state is running a little bit behind with their student count process. So by the next school board meeting, I will have a definite budget to present, along with, hopefully at that point, projections as far as tax rate impact and so on and so forth. We did receive the information from the tax commissioner. The property yield is expected to go up, which then what that means is that drives the tax rate down. So that's in our favor this year. That's good because it'll help with the water runoff that we're now paying for within the city. No, aren't we? Isn't there a runoff thing that isn't part of our property tax? No.
Well, it's actually part of our water.
Water, yeah. Excuse me, water.
Okay. And then what did they use for an average budget increase? I think it was like 3.2%.
Yes, the AOE gave the state an average education spending increase of a 3.24% for them to work with to come up with these recommended yield figures. I can't tell you what our equalized pupil spending percentage increase is yet because I need the equalized pupil count to give you that information. But we should be in really good shape at the next board meeting to have some better numbers for you to look at. And I'll actually have some information for you to look at that point.
Would we be able to get the budget like a few days before the next meeting?
I would hope so.
Just to give us a chance to look at it.
That will be my goal.
Okay.
I would say, well, Martha's mentioned a couple good things, and I've got one other I could mention. There's still challenges this year that I'm worried about when we get all the information. Maybe not as bad as last year, but one good piece of information, we just did some data on what we call first day enrollment, and Maple Run is up 50 students this year. All the schools are up.
So that in this area?
All the schools in this district
In this school district?
are up some amount, in total 50 students. Now, that may not help us a great deal in this year's budget because we have to do a 3-year, state does a 3-year average for, but it can't hurt. And it's the first time in several years that we've been up significantly.
Can I ask, are those all people who live in town, move to town, or one of the 3 towns, or are we
No, as I
talking
say,
about
all
tuition?
4 schools
All
are.
4 schools then?
Right, but any tuition kids, are you including in that, or?
No.
Tuition kids.
Well, we still accept kids at BFA, don't we?
Yeah, so yes, it would include tuition kids for BFA, but.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it include the 25 that did we like limit it to 25 or something like that, kids that are coming in?
Yes, but that's always been true.
Right.
So
They're always included in those.
they're always included. So, yeah, and the significant is schools in the elementary schools. BFA's up a little, which is great because BFA's been going down the last few years. So up a little is better than down. But town, city, and Fairfield are all up too. So it's nice.
Okay, any comments for the budget? Thanks, Martha. Kathy, negotiation updates?
Yes, we've met twice to talk about negotiations, and we have a date set for our first meeting with the association, which is January 14th at 6 p.m., at which time we will establish ground rules and approve the FTE list that we will be using on both sides to talk about money. And I'm trying to get a couple more dates kind of set because as soon as we can get those set, we can get those locked in people's schedules. But we are set for our first meeting January 14th.
Who's negotiating for the association?
For the association, let's see, Pat Thompson, oh boy, I'm not going to remember everybody. Patricia Coons. Kim Willoughby from Fairfield. City is, and there's, I'm not sure that they've determined all of the folks. I think there may be 2 custodians.
And is it Suzanne Griffin?
Suzanne
Griffin.
Yeah. Thank you. At this point, they're not thinking she's going to be involved, but she may.
She's always available.
She's always involved, too.
Right.
She just may not be at the table.
Well, the ground rules usually include a statement that says we may have a lawyer, they may have a Vermont MBA at that time.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thanks, Kathy. On to new business. It's a Town of Fairfield easement request, attachment 8A. So we're looking for a motion to approve
So moved.
this. Any discussion? Okay. So again, it's Town of Fairfield easement requests. The Town Select Board have requested an easement from NRUSD. We have
I'm sorry. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we approve the town of Fairfield EV request. Thank you. 8A under new, 8B under new business, discussion of possible bond referendum. Continuing discussion about the capital needs. So the project that has been proposed for VFA, we're coming in with an estimated cost, including all contingencies, at about $5.9 million. So I did do some preliminary request from the bond bank to just get some determinations on what that would look like as far as a tax rate impact. If we were to be looking to just bond for the BFA project at this point, a $6 million bond with a 25-year schedule would impact the tax rate by about 1 2/3 cents. If we were to stretch that out for 30 years, which they now do a 30-year bond, that would be about 1.5 cent tax rate impact for that project if it comes in at that rate. And I'm assuming Kevin wanted to speak more. Well, did you want to speak about anything other than the BFA project?
I would just say, not just giving you the figures for the BFA project, which I heard some gulps, but we actually thought,
Probably good.
That's actually not.
given all that's happening, that's not bad. We failed. In addition to that, last meeting, we talked about some other capital improvements that we would be using reserve funds for. And one of those, probably one of the largest of those capital improvements was Fairfield, as far as the parking lot and the possible addition to the building, which we don't have clear figures on yet, but we're estimating $1 million or slightly less on that. So I just want to throw it out there that if we are and we're not going to be voting on anything tonight, this is all informational for you tonight, but I want the board to at least be thinking about, do we want to use reserve funds for that when it comes up? We have decided that the importance of doing it. Or does the board want to look at adding that to the bond? So that would basically change the bond from being somewhat like a $6 million bond to a $7 million bond.
And the difference as far as tax rate impact would be, instead of 1 2/3 cents for a 25-year bond, it'd be about a 2 cent tax rate impact. It'd be at 1.94 cents, estimated to be. And if we were to stretch that to a 30-year bond, it would be, again, about 2 cents. It would be 1.8 cents. So it would be about a 2 cent tax rate impact for a $7 million bond.
So what about the other schools? They have anything?
They don't have any major construction issues at this point that we can't manage through our capital reserve. And
So looking down the road, nothing you would see that come up? So the Fairfield gym, is that something that's just been not discussed anymore? Fairfield is a middle school and it has an undersized gym. It's not in compliance with the requirements for the middle school. So I don't know if that was brought up among administration as possible part of a building project.
Sean,
So when we were not thinking in terms of bond and having to pay back debt, what I was focused on was, is there a way to improve safety and improve our schedule and not pay rent on the common school by moving the art and the music room up and use capital reserve funds to do it, along with paving the parking lot. So in an effort to be fiscally responsible, I wasn't trying to dream big. The last time Fairfield dreamed big, it was way big, and it got voted down. I would love to have a separate cafeteria and a nice full-size gym, but...
Wait a minute, the last project never came to vote.
Okay, so it went away. It went away.
It went away because it included a cafeteria and a gym.
That's beautiful.
I just don't know if this is something that's going to happen down the road. I'd hate to say in 10 years that we want to do this and we're still paying the bond on the other projects. So I'm asking if there's any forethought put into Fairfield, because there's a huge community support for making that gym bigger. There's been more than one community group that's come together to try to look into doing that. It's not really, from what we understand from the architects, that hard a project to do. You're talking about moving a wall. And there is substantial, there might be some damage to the foundation on the north side of the gym, but that's hearsay at this point. So I'm asking, is this going to come up later on? Is the state going to say you don't have a middle school sized gym, and we have to fix it?
I don't know how much the state gets involved in our local athletics at that level.
I think it's more about phys ed.
Phys ed's fine. So there are no rules on the size for phys ed. You can do phys ed wherever you want.
I imagine it's probably more about is the kitchen up to code.
So we just put a new kitchen in a couple of years ago, right? So
Right. But that was the bigger discussion last time, right?
yeah. So I did not entertain any of that because I had a certain number of priorities that we were going to be trying to hit with capital reserve. If the question tonight, which I have not thought about until this very moment when I heard Kevin say, hey, maybe we'll roll it into a bond. If that's something that y'all would like to consider, then there are plans, there's all sorts of stuff out there. That's up to you guys. I mean, honestly, make the school beautiful, yeehaw, I'm in. But again, that's debt that we're incurring. And, these questions, if you're going to be fiscally responsible, doing the capital reserve projects the way we were going to do it without incurring any debt seemed like, to me, helping to fix health and safety needs and not overpowering our future selves for 30 years.
I don't disagree. I just was wondering what happened to that part of the discussion.
That was not part of the discussion in this round. As I said, the only thing I was doing was looking at, I gotta get out of that common school, and my parking lot is dirt. So I got to do something about those things. In terms of priorities and being fiscally responsible, that's where I focused. I did not ask for anything else. If you guys would like to entertain something else, then that's absolutely up to the board's discretion.
I'm only proposing that if it comes up down the road, we're looking at a second bond.
Yes.
And I guess I'm suggesting that we just look at it and see what the impact would be. And also find out if it's really necessary, or if it's just a community issue or so on. But I know the athletics program is hindered by it. But the last project had a separate cafeteria, which I suppose is better for kids and better for scheduling phys ed, I was told. But that was what was on the table last time. So I understand the approach. My concern is that we're going to have this come up later on at some point, and we're already into a bond.
So what you're looking at is another study. The study that we have paid for already, or that we're paying for now, that you approved, and thank you very much, is almost done. By the end of this week, I should have some numbers from Cross Consulting, Cross Engineering, on the options for the common school. We did receive back a sort of initial thought on what the parking lot would look like. So until we have all those pieces together, we weren't going to bring that back here. You will be looking at another sort of architectural study at that point, which is several more $1,000s. So, I mean, if you decide to do it, I mean, I'm happy to go along for that ride, but that's up to the board. That's not something I was going to bring to you. I'm going to try to, you know, tax rates in Fairfield are high enough. I wasn't going
They are very high. But
I wasn't going to go asking for, you know, a mansion. I was looking for some paving and not having the kids walking down a hill next to a road in the winter, you know.
And the deal with the middle school gym being small is some of the home games are actually at town school instead of Fairfield. Is that what?
In basketball, no, we have our home games at Fairfield. Okay, so with the gym size, it is not like a regulation size, right?
Right.
We know that it's kind of small.
60 square.
Yeah, it's small. There are a couple of issues with that. Issue number one is that to get people into the gym and around to where seating is, they have to walk in an area about this big, right?
Yeah.
The concessions are in the kitchen, so they're standing in an area this big with balls flying at them. I mean, it's an older school. It was built for a different time and a different set of needs. We make it work. We put pads up behind the basketball nets because the kids go running, and in a regular court, they wouldn't necessarily hit the wall as often as they hit the wall at Fairfield. They hit the wall. It makes them stronger, right? So at a certain point, you kind of, you have to say to yourself, okay, is that the direction we want to go? I wasn't going to take us there, but if that's the conversation the board would like to have, then I am more than happy to go along with you on that ride.
I'm merely suggesting that we consider it if we're considering a bond, if that's something that would come up later on. I mean, all the last 5 iterations of building projects all included an expanded gym, and 2 of them included the cafeteria. And yes, they were voted down. One was $9 million, one was $7 million, which we reduced to about $3 million, and still got where we wanted, using capital reserve at the same time, all before consolidations. This was in the works. So I'm just asking if that would something the administration would consider before bringing it to the board as a possibility of something that we're going to need.
That's a question above my pay grade. I defer.
I would just say that the logic that you need to include everything that you're going to do in the next 25 years in just a single bond is faulty. When we're talking about bonding for 25 years, there's going to be other projects that come up. Yeah.
I think the logic to try to make it as encompassing as you can is not faulty. Because you're talking about an extra tax.
They gave us the capital improvement list, and
that's fine.
Everything that was on it was what they thought needed to be done. So.
Yeah.
Is it the current, whatever, to do 20 years, 25 years now? Because didn't we do less than that in other bonds?
Smaller bonds, quite a few years back, we bonded for a little bit less than $1 million, and we did that one for only 15 years.
I mean, the impact of 25 to 30 doesn't seem huge to me.
Right.
So is it? What does 20 years look like? I'm just thinking of indebting the future of
yes,
community.
If this board is considering going for a bond, I would look at more numbers, more options. This was just to get the feel from the board if we're moving in the direction that the board is comfortable with or not. Yeah, we will have a lot better numbers, a lot clearer definition of what the projects would look like.
I could always ask Cross to expand the scope to see what pushing out that back wall of the gym would do. If one of the plans is adding classrooms onto that piece of the building anyway, then I mean, I could ask. It will cost more money that the board would have to produce.
I realize we're not voting on this bond tonight, but from my experience and from
what I'm seeing, I'm really in favor of safety for students. The sprinklers in the older part of the building. And I really like the entranceway redesigned so that you have a place where people can come in without having to go through the rest of the school. Because oftentimes you have people coming to visit the school who might be, business people, parents, and everybody's in a good mood and whatever, but oftentimes you have people who are upset, and there are folks that you wouldn't want to immediately put in the rest of the building. So having meeting rooms, an entranceway that's safer for kids, safer for adults, and provide a place for people to meet in the building without going through the rest of the building in front of students, making a big upset, whatever. That just makes a lot of sense to me. So I realize we're not voting right now or whatever, but I didn't see a pie in the sky vision for this BFA project. It looks to me like, safety and concern and a redesign that makes sense. So, my opinion. As a former educator, I talk too much.
Can I just clarify in case any board members are not aware of the way the bond process works? I think you might know I'm the chairman of the non-municipal bond bank. Unlike a home mortgage where you pay the same amount every month, every year from the beginning to the end, the bond process is such that you start, your second year is your highest total amount of bond payment, and then every year through the course of the entire payment period, the amount you pay declines. And that's why it's more appropriate to consider that you may do another bond 2 years, 5 years, 10 years while the other bond is still active than it would be if you had a home mortgage, for example, where the amount's always the same. We probably have, how many, 3, 4, 5 bonds out now?
I think we've got 5 bonds out right now.
And each one of them, those balances, those amounts due have declined every year. And that's why I think you can be a little bit more comfortable, recognizing that you may need to do another bond, certainly well before this one's paid off. Very common.
Well, I was actually going to ask that. I think this community's been in a situation where we've had multiple, if you think of PSA, St. Albans City, and St. Albans Town at least, as a conglomerate, we've been in the position of having multiple bonds house now, and you just pointed that out, so you just confirmed it.
And I would just add, too, I'm really proud of this group relative to how we've tried to minimize bonds through the capital reserve. We're not going out very often. We're trying to do what we can through the capital reserve and maintaining that reserve. And as Martha talked to you last time, there is a reserve there. Having said that, I wanted to just throw that out. We've already got Fairfield taken care of with the capital reserve, should we want to do that. I just wanted to give you that option to think about. Since an additional $1 million, $1 million here, $1 million there, but would not be overbearing for a bond. And that would maintain a little additional capital reserve for later on if we need.
What was included in that $1 million for estimate at the beginning?
That was the parking lot, which needed paving, and there was additional problems with the parking lot that was going to cost more than normal. And the addition, because the common school is, we're presently renting it. The town really doesn't want to continue doing that, or if they do, they're going to raise the rent. It's not up to code. We've known all along we need to do something because it's not handicapped accessible. So it would be an addition to the building that will allow students that are now down in the common school to be back up in with the regular school.
I think that's the number one priority. That common school, I've been through it.
And to tell you the truth, if we use the themes safety and security, that's, Fairfield would fit right into that.
I understand, yeah, and also ADA. I mean, we've always been a little short on that, but I think that's better now. Yeah, I mean, because a good example is if we had a wheelchair student, they wanted to be in band, we'd have to move the whole band, and that's the problem with the common school. And also, it's really old and really dry, and
Sometimes too wet.
So it's not a decision you have to make tonight. If there's specific information more than you'd like to make a decision, let us know. But that is, we'd like to, we're recommending, we'd love to have us move forward with that because we would like to have, if we're moving forward with the march.
You want for the ballot?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Place the motion on the table.
Actually, there's no need for a motion today. Al, I think we want to give you the information, but we'll talk more about it next time. And that's when I think we'll have an action item for that.
Because we basically, I think, we've gotten a sense that we should continue with our thought process and bring the board more definitive information. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and I think people that I talked to are going to be wanting that, because we can say it's just like 1 point or 2 cents, which doesn't sound like much, but it's 2 cents here, all of a sudden, you're an extra 10 cents. And so it all adds up, and I think that's really what people are going to be worried about. So the more information we have.
If we're trying to get this in March, I'm just saying, what's the deadline to make that type of decision?
If we were going to bond, it's a 30-day warning period?
It's the same as the warning.
Right, so we would have to have a board motion by mid-January.
Okay.
So the goal is to get this on, Kevin, for March?
That's our thought.
If we don't do that, just to show you, because we talked to Laz about this, it was my hope that if we did a bond and it was passed, that we could especially start the BFA stuff this summer. And that's not,
it's not
even if it passes in March, the work can't get done until the summer of 2020.
Right. Because of the bidding process.
Okay.
All the process takes time.
The process, the permitting, all that.
So can I ask, just as with using the funds that we do have, how fast can you get those kids out of the common school?
Well, that's a question for the builders, really, and I don't have that answer just yet. It kind of depends on the option that we go with. If we go with portable buildings, or if we go with building on, could that project start in the summer? I don't know. I mean, it could conceivably start in the summer, and maybe we could have them out by like October, or sooner. But usually with construction, it's later rather than sooner, right?
Yeah, let's have more conversations off, because that's kind of getting off topic for the bond. Subs if we want more information on additional projects.
I think we have a pretty good idea of where to go.
Okay. Anything else? Great, good discussion, thanks. Great. Under new business, 8C, staff issues. Asked administration for recommendations here.
Yes.
So under staff's issues, C1, unpaid leave request. Look for a motion to approve the request. So second. Any other further discussion? So motion on the table for unpaid leave request for Dylan Shredrick. All in favor for approving that?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Next, I'm looking for a motion on the table for waiver of separation fee request from Jen DeMar.
the superintendent's recommendation for that.
Do you want to make the motion first?
Yeah, I make the motion, we accept.
Second.
Approve that.
It's our recommendation that not be, the request not be approved.
That is our standard process.
That's why
Okay, more discussion? Okay, votes on, motion on the table for waiver of separation fee request for Jen Miller. Oh,
The asterisk, staff issues, this doesn't belong in executive session.
So far, it does not belong in executive
I
session.
just wanted to be clear before I.
yeah, no.
And I've read this woman's request.
If we start asking more questions, then.
If more questions came up over certain things, it may turn into executive session.
Right.
At this point, it does not.
And we try not to just move things into executive session.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So, what is the motion that's on the table right now?
To, her
To
request
approve the
to,
waiver.
yeah, to approve her waiver.
Because it sounds like there's two questions in this request, or two.
Waiver of separation fee request for Jen Miller. You mean in the letter?
Yeah. There's a second part to that. If the board isn't going to read that, then there's the question is, can it be changed?
That would be our process. That would be our issue. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Could you repeat?
Sure. The motion is to approve the waiver of separation fee request from Jen. Okay. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
No. Abstain? Yes. So it does not pass.
You abstain, so that's
Yes.
071.
07, yeah. Okay. Next one, administrator retirement request from Mr. David Kimball. Looking for a motion to approve that.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Dave, you know, we've always enjoyed the work that you've done. So I'm just a little bit confused by the second paragraph where you state a couple of conditions that would cause you to retire. And I don't want to reword things. I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I just wondered if you could just clarify that a little bit.
Well,
What are you talking about?
For a point of order, I'll just make the
Yeah.
motion to approve the retirement, and so that we can discuss it.
Yeah. Second? Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was it
That's
you were looking
out.
for clarification on?
I just wondered, because we certainly would be love to have you stay. At least the BFA board was always very pleased with everything you did. So I'm assuming that you're needing to meet your own needs, and that has caused, because you say, sadly, I'm convinced the time has come, and that you need to meet your own family or your own needs, and that would be why you would be retiring. It was not clear to me, using the conditions that you state in that second paragraph.
I don't want anything that I would say to give anyone reason to think that I'm being critical of any board, any group, any individual, or anyone I work with.
Oh, that was
I do-
definitely not my thought.
So I want to make sure that that's clear. I do feel that the time has come that this is not only right for me, but it's best for the school system.
Thank you.
And I would just say, we're going to miss Dave terribly.
Absolutely.
He's been wonderful for us. He's been such a help. The fact that he has taken his own time and been part of BFA, part of the administration, and the work he's done, he will be greatly missed.
Thank you.
Okay, so looking for, sorry, Al?
Under the, he's under a Maple Run contract, is he not? So does not the Maple Run board have ultimate say?
That's why you voted for it.
Well, you say,
I do want to make clear, I'm not asking to retire before my contract expires, I'm just informing
Giving
the
us
board I don't
notice.
plan on renewing my contract. I'm not asking to breach my current contract.
there's another contract coming up for next year.
And I'm just saying I do not plan on negotiating or signing a contract for next year. So the contract that's in place, I will absolutely honor. Good.
Well, I still ask the same question.
What's the question? What's the question now?
Question is not paid under the contract to Maple Run board.
He is under contract with the Maple Run Board until June 30th, 2019. He's notifying us that as of July 1st, 2019, he will no longer be with us.
We're gonna miss you. We're not giving you permission to not retire.
I can be an emotional guy, let's
Yeah,
not go
I'll
too
just
far.
follow, yeah.
This is hard enough already.
So what
if we voted down?
Yeah, that's
Right.
That's what I was asking.
I'm sitting here thinking of voting no, just because.
We're not, yeah.
I mean, I don't want you to be where you don't want to be, David. I think.
We're not gonna vote why you can't, so, just to follow through, so.
As long as I am.
For him to retire, 5 people have to say yes.
Yes.
I want to be the no.
What, sorry, Al.
It's okay. I'd like to make a statement. I'm not on any executive committee of the board or anything, but having been there for several years, I don't believe there's any nothing more attuned to what Davis does than I do. And this is discouraging that he is tendering his resignation at this time. And I know that it's a difficult time for him, but I would like to see him reconsider and perhaps stay on. So that's my sermon from the mount. And I think Dave's contribution to both College Pearlie over the years and BFA have been extensive. And since it's come to the Maple Run Board, he continued to do that. So I just want to speak that there should be some opportunity to reinvest in his time.
What?
As I said.
Reinvest in his time.
Well, that would be up to Mr. Kimball, but.
I just have one question for Dave. Are you sure? You're really sure?
I'm really sure.
Okay, that's two sures. One sure, one really sure. Are you absolutely positive?
Let me reword that. I'm really, really sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, motion's on the table to approve Mr. Kimball's administrative retirement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I'm abstaining.
I'm voting no.
I'm voting no.
2 noes, 1
Two no
abstention.
abstained.
Or half an abstention.
Still passes, yeah. Okay, you can retire. Okay. Another staff issue, last one.
Thank you for all your comments, I appreciate it.
He gets to retire anyway.
Thank you.
Moving on, looking for a motion for request for retirement buyouts from Lynn Bouchard.
I will explain this a bit to help remind the board that there is a retirement buyout in the contract. The retirement buyout, and Martha and Kathy will help me with the language, but I think if I paraphrase, it says that by November 1st, Kathy? Is that
October
correct?
1st.
I'm sorry, October 1st?
October 1st.
If somebody wants a buyout to retire early, they give notification, and we will take up to 5 people. The contract also, excuse me?
5 last year, 8 this year.
8, thank you. The contract also states that all requests can come in front of the board, and the board has final discretion as to whether you give it over and above the 8. We presently do not have 8. We have 2, I think. But this request did come in after October 1st. You have discretion to grant the request or not at this point. I would also mention one other thing. You have done this in the past. You always have discretion. Doesn't mean that because you did it once, you always have to do it. You have done it in the past, and what you've done in the past is you've given a per diem. Like, this is supposed to be for 20 years or more, and this person has 17. So
it would be a prorated amount.
It would be a prorated amount. That's what you did last year. So in this case, if you were to do it, it would be 17/20ths of the retirement.
So
am I clear?
And this person will
So
work that.
I'll second the motion with per diem included in the wording. The per diem that Kevin just explained.
Oh, prorated, yeah, prorated.
Per diem is different, that's as needed.
Okay, so looking, Al did the motion, is there a second?
I second it.
Second, okay.
Al did it and I second it.
Question before you go.
Just should we put in the motion to not accept any more, that this is the final one?
I would recommend you don't, because you never know what's going to come up, and you want to have that discretion to be able to do that or not.
Okay.
And the side letter does say that additional teachers may be considered for the benefit at the discretion of the board.
Okay.
You have total.
We have discretion anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion will read, so the request for retirement will buy up Lynn Bouchard at a prorated rate.
Prorated benefit.
Prorated benefit, okay.
How difficult is this position to fill? So I think Leanne will speak to that. Oh, I didn't even know you were even mine. How difficult is this position to fill?
It won't. Thank you. Any more discussion? Questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 8-0. Thank you. Okay. Other business warrants?
We added 8D.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Sorry.
So I was sitting here thinking about it, and the zoning administrator for Fairfield, I did ask her to send a letter about this to the superintendent and to the board chair. And from what went on earlier, it sounds like you guys never heard of this before. So I'm making a motion to table.
Second?
Second. You have to.
I would just say there's nothing there on, there's nothing to table.
Well, there's no action, that's right, yeah, but I will tell you that if you want some history on it, I can offer that as some time when you want.
You just put it on the future agenda.
No, I honestly, I think there's a legal issue because the towns limit permits, but the state says you can't. So I don't want Maple Run to be involved in a decision like that, personally, I think we should stay out of it. But I want to be able to answer the question at the meeting. It'll have to wait.
So you don't want it for future items, or?
If she sends a letter to the superintendent and the chair, then you'll, yeah, then I have something to say.
My opinion too is that something like this, if it's not on the agenda that's warned, we couldn't take an action anyway.
But I guess it wasn't.
I just wanted for future things, it really needs to be on.
But you could give direction on what we could say to, I wasn't looking for an action, I was looking for direction on what to say to.
It was unclear what you were looking for, so, but.
Yeah, well, I was trying to work it out with Sue, and that was out of order, so, yeah. So, we're fine with that.
I would like to make a suggestion that we could excuse the students if they wanted to leave.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, they're certainly learning, they're certainly welcome to. I mean, this is amazing that you stayed this long. You did their report and they hiked your last. Just wanted to give you license to leave.
You just want to go so they break out the margaritas.
No.
And I've been watching it, we haven't gone once.
No, I'm very interested.
Those offer.
I just wanted to get that out there. Alex, you guys go, we gotta be in school tomorrow. I mean, it is a school. It's 8 o'clock.
They make their decision.
You are more than welcome.
You're welcome to stay. We appreciate you staying. I just was feeling.
Okay, other business. Looking for a motion to accept the warrants.
So moved.
Warrants.
Second.
I'll say it first.
It all has it.
Mike, thank you. Any discussion? Any discussion? Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Board and administrative handouts?
There is none. We did not receive it. I know that disappoints.
I know, we look forward to that every month.
So you may get two next time.
You're starting to get repetitive.
Post-principal report, Chris?
Just give the superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, we were gone, so, I'm sorry. Let's go back up to the business 90, superintendent's report, sorry.
I have two things. First off, you may have seen it in the paper. Rise Vermont had a awards ceremony, I think a couple weeks ago. And the central office of Maple Run received an award. It's for all the work they've done on wellness. And much of that work, or most of that work, has been because of Jermaine and Brianne, who are our wellness coordinators and who are pretty good at getting all this information, the information out on wellness. They're the ones that have done what the thing we do at Collins Pearly?
The wellness challenge?
The wellness challenge, that's it, yes. So, as I say, we won an award. It's called the 2018 Rising Tides Award, Gold Award for Gold Work Site, presented to Maple Run Unified School District in recognition of your leadership and innovation in accomplishing Rise Vermont gold standards in wellness policies and practices. So, we will put that up on our boardroom wall. It was a very nice time. Some of you were there. It was very nice. Culinary arts students did the meal, and went very, very well. The only other thing I have, which I already emailed you, so you have some information, and you probably read the paper, but I think it was a very informative and well done state board meeting that we hosted. When was it, Alex? Last
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And in the PAC, it lasted all morning, started at 9 o'clock and went till about 1 o'clock. As if you read the paper, you'll know that they came to closure on all the remaining mergers. Not easily. There was some controversy. The controversy by that point was relatively muted. But they have pretty much got everything in place now, including our neighbors to the north who've been merged. So it was a good exercise in what governance is all about. For me, the highlights, I'm very, very proud of our students. Basically, our students ran that day from the beginning to when we had students bring our ambassadors, brought the board and all the audience members from the parking lot, had them sign in, brought them to the PAC. Haley was involved with that, Alex was involved with that, to the ending, which I was extremely emotional, actually. The Speak Chorus once again performed for them. And it was the perfect time because they had been through 2 years of all this work on mergers and about working together and all of this, and all of a sudden they had this student performance to end with, which they normally don't have. And they gave every students a standing ovation, and you did a great job there. We have, Mike was there, and Jeff was there, so I don't know if you have been there.
Every time I've seen it, I love it.
Every time. Give me a copy on. Let me stream it or something.
Well, you've got a copy. So
a video copy?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was one done that day. It was actually much better audio than the former one. So if you had a chance to look at it, it's so much easier to listen to because you can understand what it is. So, and then it ended up with bringing the board after they finished to the culinary arts at the Hideaway Restaurant, and they had a meal with our culinary arts students. So they were extremely impressed. I think you probably saw Brenda's thing that the Secretary of Education talked about how impressed he was with the students and the success of the day. And so were we. So certainly thank you for that. That's it for me.
Okay, skip over the board administrator handouts. There is none. Sorry, Chris, your turn now.
Thank you. So, I don't really have anything to add to my report. I hope you enjoyed it. I tried to make it attractive and informative and interesting reading. But as you can see, there were many events at BFA that were involving student recognitions and a lot of fun activities that the students described. So I'm glad to provide that information for you. One thing I know that folks wanted me to mention was just that it has been a very difficult week here at BFA. We lost a member of our community. We lost A.J. Holscheider, and it's very sad, and that's an understatement. Our students have worked very hard. They didn't have to work. It came naturally. They supported each other, and our staff was remarkable in ensuring appropriate attention to everyone. So if anything good comes from the loss of a young person, nothing shakes a school community more than the loss of a young person. It's the way kids support each other and the way staff, as the adult caregivers, truly respond. And there is a level of pride there, the sense of community that we've developed. AJ was a young man who interacted with many students across all social groups, which is rare sometimes in high school. And he was a friend to many and will be missed. But I do want to mention the good things that can come from some tragedies such as this, and that is the closeness and support that students provided to each other, as well as the support that we received as part of the district and as principals within the district. A loss doesn't just affect one school, it affects many. And the cooperation among the school principals, I think, made it very, made it a little easier to bear. And we received a lot of well wishes from the VPA and from area schools that have also struggled with the loss of young people. And so to be part of that network within Vermont is very special and really helps. So we want to honor the young man whom we lost, and I do want to give thanks to everybody for their efforts in maintaining the wholeness of our school community.
Can I add something, Chris? I think they did a good job getting a letter out to parents because my kid was texting me about this, and I assume other parents were getting texts about it, and as soon as we heard about something official, it was better. So thank you for that. And is it my understanding that there's a service at Collins Pearly for this young man?
David.
The whole Shutter family has done a phenomenal job of planning a service tomorrow that will help to give students even a further opportunity to heal and to benefit from the tragedy. And I think it's going to be very, very nice, and I think it'll be very helpful to not only students, but to the faculty and members of the community with the UAJ. It's, many of his possessions are most prized possessions and things that he liked the most will be on display there. There'll be a setup for people to gather and just chat about things. There's just a lot that's being done there that's beyond the normal memorial service. And hats off to the whole Shutter family. They've been just great and very difficult.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yes, I mean, it's tragic. It's been hard for everybody, and I think the schools have done a very good job reaching out to the students as well, teachers, friends, families, and everybody. So thank you. Central Office Administrative Reports. Joanne?
Well, okay. There's been a lot going on. It's been extremely busy. It's some highlight. I would like to say this is a highlight, but it really isn't. Working on the budget with Martha. Martha's a highlight. The budget is done. Been doing a lot of work in all of the schools, supporting principals to really think creatively about how we're serving our special education students. We're experiencing a bubble of really high needs at this point. So that has been a challenge. And it's been great working with people to really think differently about how we serve our kids. Michelle and I have been heading up or coordinating the Social Emotional Learning Committee that we discussed at the last board meeting that went on to the 5-year plan. So the committee has met, the smaller committee has met once to start developing a path forward with that. We also received some data from the DMG group, District Management Group, who came in and did a data analysis for us. So that was interesting. They've been working with Northwest Counseling and Department of Children and Families to provide training to our leadership team and also DCF staff and Northwest Counseling staff on Act 264, which is basically the coordination of services for children and families. Let's see, and I'm wrapping up teaching a graduate course in behavior intervention, and happy to say that it's also been a coordinated effort. I have teachers and faculty from SATEC, VFA, and Fairfield participating in this course, and I also have 10 staff from Northwest Counseling Center, and it's been really nice to be able to provide it in the boardroom at Maple Run to give people some exposure to central office.
And I would also like to mention, since Joanne spoke first, for those of you who haven't seen it yet in the paper or anything else, Joanne has made the decision not to stay as director of special ed. As you know, Michelle is leaving this year as assistant director to go to San Diego. So Joanne will be going back into the assistant director position, and we've already started the process of looking for a director of special ed for next year. And I thank her for stepping up to the plate this year when we needed her to do that, is the director position.
I just feel the need to make a slight correction that we had a conversation last week, and I shared with Kevin that I would provide him with a decision regarding the assistant director's position by the end of this week.
Relative to retirement.
Relative to retirement, yes.
We have to prove that next too. Kathy.
Let's see, this is the time of year we start to ramp up with things like negotiations, where I'm preparing data. We have a list of all of the staff that both sides uses for negotiations in terms of determining the monies that we will be using for the staff for the next year in the contract. We are looking at developing a one-year contract because of the negotiation at the state level on health benefits. We are just in receipt of a request from the VSBA for a huge amount of data for that health insurance debate that will be going on at the state level. And they'd like it by, I think they said January 11th. So we're going to have a busy couple of weeks to get that all ready for them. Working on policy, I'm hoping to have a policy on student voice, freedom of expression for the one of the January board meetings, if not February. We're also continuing work on a wellness policy to update that to bring to the board. And I'm doing a great deal of work this year on focusing on district-wide practices. We've had practices in all of our schools that might not match up with one another. So we're working on things like, we have standardized, for instance, teaching for summer school. That was different all over the place in different schools. Tutoring, support staff work, casual labor, specialists that we bring in. The rates are different in different schools, and as we move to one district, we need to standardize those things. We're working, I'm sharing with Mona a teacher evaluation committee. We're working on first and second year teacher evaluations to make those standardized across the district. PD requests, leave requests, just a lot of things that might have been done individually in schools with different practices or even rates. What we pay scorers, timekeepers, referees, all of those things are on the table to be discussed this year to try to move toward consistent rates across the district.
Thank you.
Well, besides working on the budget, I'm also still working with the auditors to finalize the FY18 audit. Just recently got a few more questions from them. Hopefully, we can get that finalized and closed real soon. I recently did a budget forecast for our current year and informed the administrative team at our last admin council meeting that our current year budget, we're in good shape at this point in time. There's still a half of the year to go, so it's still volatile, but right now we're looking okay. I came back today, I was in Killington for 2 days. I left there at 2 o'clock this afternoon so I could be here for the meeting. AOE, Agency of Education, was holding a three-day conference regarding the new uniform chart of accounts that all school districts have to use and report on starting July 1st of 2019 fiscal year. along with the implementation of the new financial software package. That was extremely helpful. It was one of the best things that the Agency of Education has ever put together. There was probably 75 to 80 business managers and HR directors all working, and it was basically a large think tank. And we all worked together working on streamlining across the state where things are recorded and how they're recorded for financial purposes. So that was extremely beneficial. I wished I could have stayed until tomorrow where it finishes, but it didn't work out. But other than that, I mean, just doing the other day-to-day operations, payroll and accounts payable.
Is the financial software implemented in the office, or
No. It's mandated that they are all implemented by July 1st of 2020. But the contract that the state has with the software company for unlimited support ends July 1st of 2019. So most school districts in the state are going on live July 1st of 2019. We are preparing for that possibility of going live July 1st of 2019. I'm not confident that the state will be able to have all the school districts online with the new software for that date. So there's a possibility that we won't be live July 1st of 2019, but we are preparing for it. So that's a huge undertaking that the business office will be working on over the next 6 months as well.
Mona?
For curriculum, we've been looking at ways that we can explore some blended learning opportunities for students, personalized learning. We have some schools piloting Alexia reading program, another school piloting another similar program to see which one is better suited for our schools. And then we can come back and bring the data and we can make decisions on how to move forward with increasing the personalization for students and integrating technology into the classroom. For instruction, for the last month, teachers have been working with consultants to work on ways to improve student discourse in math. They've been working with the instructional coaches and going to classrooms, giving feedback to the teachers, and coming back and digging deeper into how can we improve students being able to comment on their, making their thinking visible. And in data, what we've been doing is we're digging deeper into the data and really learning across the grades what are the challenges, what are the success, where are the strengths, so that we can dig deeper into our curriculum, into our practices. And our next CIA meeting coming up on the 20th, we're going to look at some ways that we can disseminate data across the board and really create some protocols for teachers to systemize looking at data to improve instruction.
Melanie, I'm sorry. There's one person.
Oh, it's fine. I'm getting all the good pieces down here. We're good. No, with preschool, of course, we have about 3 weeks till Christmas, so we're doing a lot of culminating events. The teachers have been working very diligently on a little bit of everything, which is great. We have students at 70 different levels, and of course, you know how important preschool is. It's their, first integration into the school system. So they have great pieces going on. We have a gingerbread project at City School. I know that is a culminating event. That's a partnership between some pre-K teachers and some kindergarten teachers, which is a lot of fun. At Fairfield, they're going to have, they just finished a pajama day, which was great because they were doing so well, which was amazing. And to speak on Fairfield very quickly, we have a new teacher out there. And in the first 2 months, she was tasked with meeting one of our pre-K standards, which is a STARS packet. It's huge. It's talking about everything that happened the year before. So within 2 months, she got 5 stars.
for her work over there, which was amazing. We're so lucky to have her and her team there, which is wonderful. And on that note, with the stars, part of our Act 166 standards is to have 4 stars with an improvement. With improvements, how are you going to grow to the 5 stars? Because we want to make sure that we are doing all these wonderful things for our children. City School just submitted our improvement plan for that. They had 4 stars. We just received 5 stars for our City School program as well. So we have teachers that are working so hard to meet all of these wonderful expectations. We are just moving and grooving with those things. To add to that, and some of the things that everyone's been talking about with resiliency and trauma training, we have a lovely professional coming in, Dr. Jillian Boudreau from Burlington. She is an early education trauma education specialist and psychologist. She's visiting our pre-K classrooms, looking at the children, the teachers, what can we do to better meet the children's needs, and looking at some of our children that have suffered trauma and how can we better meet them individually and as a whole group, which has been amazing. So giving them some extra parts and pieces. We are also partnering with Chittenden County through our Act 166 to kind of get us all on the same page, to make sure we're working with our partner sites and making sure we're if we get everybody consistent, our partner sites can better meet our children's needs if they're not having to do this for one facility and this for another. So we're trying to get everybody together that way, which is great. And one other, well, there's so much going on, but I know everybody's kind of ready. We've just finished up our talking about our tier systems and such. One of the things which is great, part of the ending of the Pre-KX grant, we have just finished having a statewide assessor come into all of our pre-K classrooms. And what was wonderful about that, they do a data collection piece called the class, which looks at all the parts and pieces of what's going on, such as the environment, the student-teacher interactions, and they give us an outside eye, which sometimes can be very hard to see, what's going on and how are we meeting the students' needs and what can we do to do even better, which is wonderful. It's a part of our coaching piece along with our Teapot, which is just another piece where we look at those interactions. And that has given us some things to work with the teachers on. Again, it's a big growth model. We can all improve in everything that we're doing, and that's what we're constantly striving to do. So thank you for your support with our pre-K and continuing, that vertical alignment up through, to graduation. It's so important to work with them. The earlier, the better. So thank you.
Let's see, number 10, agenda items for future meetings, proficiency-based reporting update and social emotional learning updates. Budget.
Budget.
Oh, budget too, okay. I don't think there's anything for executive session. Motion to adjourn?
We're on the agenda to
I'll adjourn.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good job.
Good job, man.
Good job, man.
Goodbye.